Welcome back. It's night 4 of Kitchn's Thanksgiving Food Fest. I'm Faith Durand, editor-in-chief of The Kitchn. Tonight is the night we're gonna talk about Friendsgiving, which I think is so important, especially right now when a lot of us aren't traveling as much, we can't be with our family perhaps. It's just a huge part of what Thanksgiving is for so many people. And we have tonight TJ Lee, who's an influencer. She has a huge following on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. TJ is Taiwanese, and she is going to bring you a Friendsgiving centered around hot pot. And if you've never had hot pot, you're in for such a treat tonight. Hot pot is this amazing communal cooking experience where you have a big pot of hot broth in the middle of the table with many ingredients to be cooked right then and there in the broth. And for TJ and for Patty Lee, Kitchn's executive editor and the co-host tonight, this to them is one of the central ways in which they celebrate Thanksgiving with friends. This evening is going to be so much fun. I can hardly wait for you guys to experience it. The menu is fabulous. The thing I am most excited about, though, is the sweet ending, which is a matcha tiramisu. As always, on each of these evenings, we also have this kind of magical opportunity to interact with TJ now in the chat and with Patty. They'll both be there ready to answer your questions about what you're seeing, talk about the recipes, and the whole evening. Please hang out there with them. They're so excited to hear from you. And as always, thank you to our Thanksgiving Food Fest partners, Anthro Living, Holland House, Idaho Potatoes, and Ninja Foodie Smart Lid. We're so grateful for you. And now, before we get into the main event, I'm gonna kick it over to Patty, who's going to show us some really ingenious ways to bring a unique tabletop to life with our partner, Anthro Living.
I'm TJ Lee. I'm an actor, I'm a vlogger, a food host, a home cook, and a cat mom, and I'm super excited to share my Thanksgiving menu with you today.
And I'm Patty Lee, executive editor at Kitchn, and I'm very excited to have TJ join us for Thanksgiving and show us her menu. This is Kitchn's Thanksgiving Food Fest.
For our little Friendsgiving celebration, we are making a big pot of hot pot. So we're making broth from scratch. It's gonna be a pork bone broth. And of course, I'm gonna have some items on the side. I'm making this Taiwanese sesame cold noodles. I eat it every day, it's delicious. I'm gonna have something light and refreshing, a Taiwanese cucumber salad on the side as well. And then for drinks, we're gonna make lychee soda. It's sweet and it's gonna pair beautifully with the hot steamy broth. And then finally, we're gonna end Friendsgiving with matcha tiramisu, and that is just a little icing on the cake. Circle in ancient China is like a really big cultural symbol. So in Chinese, there's a word called 团圆, which means the gathering of loved ones, and yuan is actually means circle. So that's you'll see is like circle banquet tables, circle hot pot. So us gathering around the hot pot is the gathering of loved ones.
I'm gonna be asking TJ a lot of questions today, and you should also do so in the chat. She's gonna be here live to answer anything you wanna know about her amazing Thanksgiving menu. So TJ, how has Thanksgiving changed for you over the years?
So I grew up in Taiwan, and we don't actually celebrate Thanksgiving there, But anytime we have celebrations, we do hot pot. And so when I moved here, my family stayed in Taiwan. And so to carry on this hot pot tradition, I had Friendsgiving. So we would have our friends go over and we just gather around a hot pot, and it was just the best experience. For me, Thanksgiving is a time where I can celebrate with my friends, and my friends are my family. And so that's super important to me.
Do you do anything to kind of like get everyone mingling and like in the mood for Friendsgiving?
I mean, that's what hot pot's for. We're all standing around a big pot. There's no way that we're not like, hey, can you like grab that for me or do this? Like, how are you doing? And just start chatting. I mean, it's just the best experience to bring us all together. Hot pot.
For people who are hosting a Friendsgiving or Thanksgiving for the first time, what's your number one tip?
Ask your friends to bring something, but know what they're bringing, okay? So when we do Friendsgiving, we usually have an Excel sheet. So we have like, who's bringing actual food, who's bringing snacks, who's bringing drinks, who's bringing things like extra cups or utensils if we need it. And it's just like, if they do bring something, it just brightens up, the menu and the things that you already have, and it's just so festive. So know what they're bringing. Because I don't want like 10 sodas.
TJ, we're starting off with your showstopper. It's like the piece that's really at the heart of your Friendsgiving menu. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so this is the pork bones. I got them from the Asian supermarket. When they're not chopped, they look like this giant bone leg, but they usually slice it up to 3 pieces right here. What you want to do first is we actually want to clean the bone as much as possible because we want the clearest broth. So you're gonna soak it into cold water for about 30 minutes. So this is pre-soaked, and you can see the blood coming out already.
So the goal really is just like to give you the most pristine broth as possible.
We want the clearest broth possible from these bones. It can take like 2 to 3 hours to put together, but it's easy to just do it the day of. So, most of the time the pot is just like simmering on the stove. Growing up, my mom is always like stepping over a big pot of soup and just like spending hours doing it. When you put a lot of hours into your soup, that means you really love the people you're feeding it to.
I also similarly remember just like having something always simmering.
Always simmering.
And like at the end of dinner, you're just like, it's like a cozy little hug. It just like makes you feel so warm inside.
Yes, absolutely. When you sip on the soup, it'll teleport you home. That's the best feeling. Have you eaten hot pot growing up?
Yeah, hot pot was something we did a lot in my household, and kind of very similar to you. My dad works in the restaurant industry, and in my community, that was a lot of the dads. And so for Thanksgiving, it'd be like the women and children left over. And so we would often do kind of like a, either a potluck or like a, celebratory meal, and this is the go-to.
Yeah.
So I love when you suggested it, it like very much like hit close to home.
So we have been soaking this for 30 minutes. So we're actually going to pour this out, rinse it, and wash the bones. So now in a pot of cold water, we're actually going to put the bones in it. You're going to bring this to a boil and let it simmer for 5 minutes.
TJ, how did you learn how to cook?
I actually did travel videos before. So I would go out and film and try street food and like try restaurants in a different country. And then when the pandemic happened, I was like,
all of that stopped.
I was like, I lost my job. So I can't do it. And so out of like survival and I guess comfort, I started cooking at home because I was away from my family and I was so homesick. I wanted to make a lot of things that I usually eat at home. So stuff like tomato egg stir fry, that's one of my favorite. Taiwanese popcorn chicken. I remember I made it, I took a bite and I started tearing up because I was just like, I miss home. So the reason we put the bone in and bring to a boil and simmer is because it's gonna get out all the gunky stuff and you'll see this kind of brown stuff surfacing to the water right there. And that's actually what we scooped out right here. All right, ready? All right, here comes the pork bones. There we go, lovely. Last one. I'm just removing, you see that piece right there that I just removed off? We just want to clean this. So what we're gonna do now is we're actually going to fry the bone and it's just gonna bring out more of its flavor. Like sometimes when I make, for example, a kimchi soup, I will fry the kimchi first and bring out more flavor before I put in the broth. So this is kind of the same thing. Like we're just awakening the bone, bringing out all of that nice flavor, a little bit of smoke. Okay, so you're only gonna probably do this for about 3 minutes, just trying to get a little bit of color. So now we're gonna add boiling water in. So you're gonna bring this to a boil, and then it's going to simmer for an hour. Now you are going to cover it, but sometimes when you cover it, it like condenses and then it drops back into a soup. So for a clearer broth, a little trick that my parents do is we'll actually put some chopstick here, like this. So it lets some of the steam out, and then you just have a clear broth.
That is a really good tip.
All right, yes. Now I want to make a little side dish for you, and this is going to be nice and cold. You can eat it with all the hot things that go into the broth. So this is a cucumber salad. This is super refreshing. It's actually quite addicting. You really enjoy it. The ingredients for it is really, really simple. Lots of rice vinegar, some sugar, mirin, all mixed together, sesame oil. We put a little chili oil in there, and of course, lots of minced garlic, just for that freshness.
And what particular is great about having this kind of cold, crunchy dish as part of a hot pot Friendsgiving?
In a lot of Asian cuisine, there's always some sort of like pickly goods on the side. Like when we eat Korean food, the side dishes, there's like Korean pickled cucumbers. In Taiwan, we have like pickled cabbages. We also have, cucumbers. So there's always something nice and crunchy and cold. I think it's just a nice cold break from like all the hot things we're gonna eat. Okay, you want to try one?
I'm totally up for trying one.
Okay. Crunchy, sour.
My son loves pickled everything. Like if we go get pho and there's like pickled daikon and carrots, he can literally eat the entire side. So that like anytime I eat anything pickly now, just like, oh, Henry would really love this.
This broth has been simmering for an hour, and now we're going to add in the daikon. So the daikon adds a lot of sweetness to the broth. Also, the texture of daikon is amazing, and it does take a while for it to cook thoroughly.
And is that like when you serve, do you keep it in there and like people can also like eat the daikon?
Yes, you do keep it. You keep it in there, and people can also eat the daikon. It's just the best. And actually, sometimes people are like, "Do you take out the bone?" And I say no, because some people actually like to gnaw on the bones. So we just kind of keep it all in there. All right, so we're just gonna simmer this for an hour.
So as we wait for the broth to continue building on those flavors, add to the chat, what do you like to bring to Friendsgiving? TJ, what dish are we making now?
Okay, so now we're making my Taiwanese sesame cold noodles. It's so good, you will be addicted, and these are all the things you're gonna put into the sauce. So this right here is Chinese sesame paste. It looks kind of watery, but it's actually quite thick, and this is the particular brand that I'm using. When you get it at the store, sometimes they'll mix sesame paste with peanut butter, but you wanna get just sesame paste, and they usually have a label in English that says it on the side. We also have creamy peanut butter. This is sesame oil. It's gonna add a nice fragrance to the dish. This is rice vinegar.
That'll add that pop of like acidity, right?
Oh, heck yes. And in a lot of the sauces, these are very, very common ingredients. I'm also going to add in some brown sugar, add some sweetness to that soy sauce, and of course, minced garlic and everything.
So what makes this kind of a perfect pairing for your hot pot Friendsgiving?
Oh, this is kind of a selfish dish because I just really love it. And it's like
I'm hosting, I want to eat this.
And this is like the one item from home that I eat so much and I crave. And even when I was making this and I would post to my Instagram, all my friends would be like, oh my God, give me the recipe. And I'm like, just wait. I want to talk about the noodles. So these are Taiwanese thin noodles. The noodles for this dish is important because it's like a nice chew with the sauce. So these are noodles that they would typically use. However, if you're like, I don't know where to get that, try using it with spaghetti and see, because spaghetti has that nice chew as well. And like the sauce and all the fresh ingredients together, it's gonna taste good.
Do you remember the first time you had this noodle dish?
The first time I had this noodle dish, so when I was like a really young kid, my dad would come home and he would bring two things. The cold noodles from 7-Eleven, and then he would have a tea egg. So he would have these two items always. And so I feel like maybe that's why I love it so much, because it was kind of like his gift to us always. I particularly wanted to add this item to the menu because of how much it means to me. And I think to a lot of people who may have grown up in Taiwan or have Taiwanese family, this dish is immediately gonna bring them to home. I'm going to pour this out. To prevent the noodles from cooking any further, you're going to rinse it in cold water because, again, we're trying to get that nice bounce and nice chew. In Taiwan, we call that QQ. Has a QQ texture. Okay, so now we're gonna plate the noodles with these veggies, and I like to do it kind of like sectioned out. I like to add a little bit of color, you know, right there.
How would you kind of present this at a Friendsgiving?
Oh, okay. So I would lay it out like this, like how I'm plating it right now, right? And at this point, people are probably looking around like, what's going on? What are you making, TJ? And so when you're gonna pour the sauce, usually your friends are already drooling, right? They're like,
They're ready.
I can't wait to eat some of this. So are you ready for the sauce? It's time to mix. Here we go. Nice, you wanna make sure you mix all the ingredients in.
So like everybody could get a little bite of everything when they like.
A little bite
get
of
in there.
everything, so important. All right, do you wanna give this a try? I'm gonna get a big bite. Oh my goodness.
I can see why this is like would make a really good starter because it's like so flavor packed, but it's also does feel really light because it is a chilled dish.
It does feel super light. So that was delicious. I really wanna eat more, but we need to do more cooking. So
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back, we'll come back. Full 2 hour has gone by. I'm actually going to season the soup now. It's the very last step. So I'm adding in some of this chicken powder. I'm also going to add some white pepper. And of course, salt. The thing with this broth is you're not trying to season it too much and make it like so salty or flavorful because you want to keep it clear because we are dipping a bunch of stuff in it. And as we dip the meat and add the vegetable, all of that flavor is going to add to the broth.
Right, so now it's just like a little bit of enhancement.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. Let's get a little spruce up, a little makeup. Okay, so now I want to serve a drink to you. So this is a lychee soda. I chose the flavor lychee because lychee is so prominent in a lot of Asian like snacks and desserts.
Like as soon as I smelled this, I was like, that brings me back to snacks, those
It
snacks.
smells like candy. And so this is a lychee soda. It's nice, carbonated, and you get that light sweetness from the lychee. And I'm also using canned lychee here because it's easier to prepare. Growing up, we have these like really big markets outside where my mom would go and get fresh fruit, fresh meat, fresh vegetables. And so we always get fresh lychee that would just be like bundles and bundles of lychee like out in a stall. And then we would just like grab a bundle home and then we'll just crack them open and start eating them. And so I feel like lychee has, again, been one of those things that's always constant in my life. Okay, so making this is super, super simple. It's like carbonated water. You can use sparkling water, you can use soda water, lychee, simple syrup, some of this syrup from the can. Definitely try to like taste it while you're mixing everything, but it should be really light and also refreshing.
Yeah, it's so beautiful also to see the pieces of fruit in there.
Yes, I have pieces of fruit, just a little ad. Cheers! Cheers!
TJ, you've been cooking for me all day, so of course I could not come empty-handed. My parents would be very upset if I did. So I did as my parents normally would do, which is just go to the supermarket and see what looks beautiful and is delicious. So I have some cream pears and I also have dragon fruit, which just really jumped out at me.
Those are like my top favorite fruits, so you nailed it. I love these fruits.
So I'm very relieved.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you know and love dragon fruit because I've never actually learned how to open one properly. So if you do have any tips and tricks.
The first thing you want to do, you just want to chop it in half. That easy. Review the beautiful insides of the dragon fruit
Color is
like
just
that.
so stunning.
Using the spoon, kind of like,
Just like go around it,
go
loosen
around it, loosen it up. See, go, just like that. Okay, that didn't work. That didn't work, guys. Somebody YouTube how to open up a dragon fruit. The struggle is so real.
Take two. We might need a take two. And And then you can kind of like cut it into pieces for sure.
Just cut it into easy pieces, just like that.
Now that we've talked about our families and traditions, I'm gonna ask a couple more questions that are a little less serious.
Oh, okay.
Are your parents jealous when they see that you host Friendsgiving?
Honestly, no, because my parents have these like big Asian gathering dinners all the time, and they have those like banquet dinners, and they have so much more food than me, so they eat that all the time. They're not jealous.
But now we know where you get all the hosting skills from.
Yes.
It's like runs in your family.
From these Chinese banquets.
Has anyone ever gotten married after meeting at a Friendsgiving of yours?
Not a Friendsgiving, but I would say I have my hands in one couple that is now getting married. And I'm sure if they watch this, they know who it is.
What do you think about table questions? Like when people go around the table and say what they're thankful for.
I love it. I think it's so sweet. These are things that sometimes you talk about with your friends, but not very often, right? And so it's nice to have a moment where we're just serious and expressing that type of gratitude. Yeah, I love it. Now it's time for the end of the meal, and of course, we have to top it off with a nice dessert. So I'm going with a matcha tiramisu. Tiramisu is one of my favorite desserts ever. Also, it's a nice little caffeine kick with the matcha, because after Friendsgiving, we're probably gonna go karaokeing. So, gotta get a little energy, you know?
There's matcha like a couple of different ways, so I definitely want to know what they're all for.
Yes, correct. Okay, so we have the matcha with water, which is, we're going to dip the ladyfingers in. Then I have this matcha honey right here, and it just adds an extra layer of sweetness to the dessert. And then of course, we have some matcha powder right here that we're gonna dust it at the top. So it's like 3 layers of matcha.
Great, well, let's get started. What's our first step?
Okay, so I'm actually gonna fill the bottom here with some cream first. Okay, and this cream's super addicting.
Is it kind of more of a traditional tiramisu cream?
I would say it's relatively traditional. The thing is, I don't put any egg in it. It's just like a little bit mascarpone, heavy cream. We whip it until it's stiff peak. So now that we have the cream, we're actually going to get this layer finger here, dip in this, okay? And now you're just going to layer it like that. Stack really nicely. So now I'm gonna drizzle some of this matcha honey right here.
And like sweetness levels, you can kind of play with it, right? Like if you're not into too sweet desserts, just like a little bit less of a matcha honey.
Yes, I am not a big person, like sweet dessert person. Not too sweet is my level of sweetness. That's just
That's like
perfect,
your default.
That's the perfect amount. Now I'm going to just fill this up with another layer of cream.
So how do you tell that the cream has gotten to stiff peaks?
Oh, so usually when you're mixing it with the whisk and you're like this, the peak right there, this should just stay up. Stiff peaks, that's usually what it means. Okay, now we're gonna put the last layer of cream. And notice how I didn't put the matcha honey in this one. It's just a little flavor at the end.
What do you love about matcha? Why was that kind of your twist on tiramisu?
Oh, matcha is a very popular flavor in a lot of Asian dessert. So matcha pudding, matcha tea, matcha boba. I mean, matcha everything, right? So I just knew we have to add matcha into, our Asian-inspired menu today. So now I'm just gonna dust it on top with some of this matcha powder.
When your guests dig into the dessert, what are you hoping that they feel?
Just I want them to eat it like a sweet hug. So they eat it and they're like, wow, this is so good. And they go, You know the happy, gloating feeling like when you're a kid and you eat one of your favorite sweets or dessert and you're just like, that kind of feeling.
I am so excited to try this.
Yay.
I'm gonna dig right in.
All right, let's go in.
Get a little bit of, the tiramisu.
A layer of everything.
So good, so light and airy. What do you think your friends are gonna say after they try this?
Oh, after they try this, they're gonna be like, did I just pay $25 for a matcha dessert at a fancy cafe? They probably will say no. But I think they will definitely be like, wow, this is so good. It tastes, again, so light, not too sweet, which is the best compliment. I think it's gonna be a wonderful end to the whole meal. Oh my gosh, okay, so we have the vegetable, the meat, we have all the goodies, and we have the broth. It is ready. It's time for hot pot. Thank you so much for joining me for my Friendsgiving, Patty.
Thank you for having us. The broth smells incredible. I can't wait to take my first sip of it. And we really appreciate you hosting Kitchn here for your Friendsgiving menu. And thank you so much for joining us for Thanksgiving Food Fest this year.
I'm definitely super thankful for my friends. I feel like they have gotten me through the past year and a half. From what started when the pandemic happened, we would go on Zoom calls every night or FaceTime, and it was just a reminder that we're not alone. And just now that things are opening back up, being with friends, it just feels so amazing. And I'm so thankful they're there to just guide you through, tough times and also be there to celebrate with you. So I'm very thankful for them.
You guys, that was so much fun. I loved watching TJ walk us through the whole hot pot experience. It was such a delight. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for participating in the chat. As always, thank you so much to our Thanksgiving Food Fest partners, Anthro Living, Holland House, Idaho Potatoes, and Ninja Foodie Smart Lid. We're so grateful for you. Tomorrow night is our 5th and final evening, and we're going to go to a new classic menu with Yasmin Farr. So I'll see you back here then. And tonight, don't forget, as soon as we wrap up here, head straight back over to the Kitchn on Instagram for our after party. I'll see you there.